Hello YouTube, today we have a special video, the iPhone 5C-a-thon. In today's video, we'll be looking at some newly acquired devices, as well as some older ones. Remember the last iPhone 5C restoration? There will be a card for those who haven't seen it, but today, the iOS 8 5C will finally have its own screen. Big shocker, right? But this has taken forever to do. No more screen sharing from my first 5C, the one in the black OtterBox. Powering on the red 5C from eBay, it shows how it has a great looking and functional display. The red 5C is unfortunately iCloud locked, but at least I have two perfectly functional 5Cs that just need screens now. The white 5C somehow still has a fully functional display, despite the home button being held on with tape, and has poor visibility in general, but with the screen swap, this will be good as new since it doesn't have iCloud on it. Here is the iOS 8 5C. At the time of the first restoration video, I borrowed a screen to test the phone, but never got its own display. Now though, it'll be able to function again. By the way, the 5C at the very left is the one that I borrowed the screen from. Now let's clear the workbench and start fixing them. Overall, they have good housings, so I will not be doing a housing swap, but let's get started. The first one to fix is the blue 5C, and I'll be using the screen from the red one. Now in order to do this, we need to first remove the screen, and the first step in disassembly is to always power off the device. This is crucial since having it on could cause problems to everything inside, and we don't want that. Removing the two pentalobe screws from the bottom will allow us to use a suction cup and a pick to pry up the display and access the inside of the device. The first step to do once inside the device is to disconnect the battery terminal to prevent something from shorting itself, which could cause damage to the logic board or even the display. Now for the display. There are 4 screws holding the metal bracket in place, and the screen has 3 ribbon connectors which have to be detached. Once they are pulled off, we won't need the red 5C anymore. Now to move on to the blue 5C. I gave the screen a good wipe on both sides to remove any potential residue on the metal and glass. With this phone, I have the brackets in since it was complete, so those have to be removed then later reattached with the screen in place. Reassembly is the same as disassembly, but in reverse. Starting off with the display, we can go ahead and connect the display cables to the logic board and attach the battery terminal. After giving it a quick charge, we can now test the screen to make sure it's fully functional. Dragging an app across the screen can help check that the digitizer is functional, and testing the brightness slider helps to check that it controls correctly. Oh snap! iOS 8 tips. Now that we know the screen works, it's time to power it off and put the brackets back on. Disconnecting the battery again, the screen bracket is put in and the battery terminal is reconnected. Giving the phone a final wipe down inside, we can go ahead and close it. Testing the screen once more, the repair was a success, and now the pentalobe screws can be screwed back in. Removing the old screen protector, the screen can now be cleaned for a tempered glass screen protector. And there it is, the first 5C restored to its former glory. Now to the next one. The white 5C does technically function, and fortunately it does not have iCloud on it, but it just doesn't look good. Since the screen does work, I can always use it as a test display for future 5Cs. After the phones are cleaned a bit, the old screen can be removed now. Even though the glass was so shattered, there was enough of a gap of missing glass where the home button is to use a screwdriver to pry off the display, which saves some time. I did put on the old screen protector from the first display just to prevent any more small glass shards from falling onto the workbench. With the device off, we can disassemble the phone. Starting by disconnecting the battery terminal and removing the bracket, we can safely disconnect the old, now going to be test screen, from the phone. Pro tip: if you don't have a magnetic mat, you can use strong magnets to hold all the screws and brackets in the way they came out. They are, after all, not the same. Now with the white 5C ready, we can go ahead and move on to the part phone. The screen disassembly is the same process. They are, after all, the same model, but at least I didn't have to use a screwdriver to remove the display. Side note, the battery was not functional in the white 5C, so I took it from the red one, and it does have iCloud lock. Now you know. I skipped most of the disassembly since it was the same process, but now with the good 5C, it was filthy, so I gave it a good cleaning. I did also wipe it down with isopropyl alcohol off camera. Giving the screen a good cleaning on both sides, it can be put on the good logic board now. Testing the screen like the other 5C, it shows that the display is functional and it works perfectly. Powering off the phone again, it's time to put on the brackets on both the screen and battery connectors. The last step now is to reclip the screen back into the housing and put in the 2 pentalobe screws back in. The final step, giving the phone a good clean and to put a tempered glass screen protector. Look at that seal. No bubbles either. So what now? Well, I did manage to find matching OtterBox commuter cases in these fashionable colors, which isn't essential, but it will help protect the housing. The screens have held up fine and the batteries seem to function well for their age. The blue one is on iOS 8 and is 16GB, and the white one is on iOS 10 with 8GB. Thank you for joining me on this iPhone 5C-a-thon, and thanks for watching. Wow, this is crazy. 50 subscribers. It may sound small to some, but this is unbelievable. I had once dreamed of doing stuff like this, fixing a bald technology and just having fun, hoping that someone would find some interest in what I'm doing. Thank you to those who support me, and thank you to those who watch my videos. I couldn't do it without you guys. Here's to many more videos to come. To quote a famous YouTuber, "That's it for the moment. Thanks for watching."